Right. Welcome all to day 8 of this electrical safety specialist course. In the last session, we started with the topic of electrical safety program based on Article 105 and Article 110. So we discussed that there are around 13 elements of electrical safety program, and those 13 elements you can find in your Article 110.5 under electrical safety program elements. So it starts with some general requirements. General requirement, then inspection, the condition of maintenance, awareness and self-discipline, electrical safety program principles, controls and procedures, the risk assessment procedure. It talks about the job safety planning and briefing, incident investigation, and electrically safe work condition policy, then logout and tagout, and auditing requirements. Right. So we have covered till awareness and discipline. We talk about who is generally responsible for implementation and documentation of the electrical safety program. What does the inspection means? When you have to carry out the inspection, when you are installing a new electrical equipment, or the electrical equipment or system have been modified after maintenance or repair activity. Then we discuss about the condition of maintenance, that why it is important to maintain assets, electrical assets, because it will going to have an impact on the device clearance time, and if there is a changes in the device clearance time, then it can affect on the available incident energy. Right, then we discuss about this awareness and self-discipline, which is related to the employees themselves who are performing those particular tasks. So moving forward, the next one is related to electrical safety program principles, controls, and procedures. You can find those things in your Annexure E. Annexure E, there is normally questions coming from Annexure E. They ask about whether this falls under the principles, controls, or the procedures. So there are certain examples given in Annexure E which will going to help you understand what constitute electrical safety program principles, controls, and procedure. Starting with the 110.5E, which talks about the electrical safety program principle. So principles, if we define what are the principles, so principles are basically things which set the tone or which set the direction of anything. So if this principle is related to electrical safety, so in any organization, this will be the topmost thing which will be setting the direction of the process, procedures, and the activity which you will be carrying out in your organization. So electrical safety program shall identify the principles upon which it is based. So all your electrical safety program should be based on certain principles. So our company primary safety and business objective should guide the development of its safety program. The electrical safety program principles are company safety policies, such as they are safety guidelines for the employees. These principles must direct the employee activities. So if the company is focusing towards the safety of the employees, and they do take into the consideration the business objective, but the business objective is also linked with employee safety and human safety. So their electrical safety program will be developed in such a way that it will be taking into the consideration the employee safety as the one of the important factor. So if they are taking those things as an important factor, so all the process and the procedure within the organization will be aligning to it, right? So things like the policy or will be stating that you should establish an electrical safe work condition for performance of the job. The policy, the electrical safety policy within an organization will be discouraging the life work, and it will be encouraging that if it takes time more time to perform the job safely, then you should take those extra minutes and hours, so in order to perform those particular tasks. So examples of such policies can be found in sample electrical safety program E.1. So we will review what is given in the annexure E. So just think of this electrical safety program. Principles are basically the points which are setting the tone or the direction for the development of the company's electrical safety program complete. So some examples or the principles which they have included as a part of development of the policies, like inspecting and evaluating the electrical equipment. So this basically comply with the inspection part, which we saw earlier in our electrical safety program. Then maintaining the electrical equipment insulation and enclosure integrity, planning every job and document the first time procedure, de-energizing or establishing an electrically safe work condition as per Article 120.5, anticipating unexpected events, identify the electrical hazard and reduce the associated risk, protecting employees from electric shock, burn, blast, and other hazards due to working environment, using the right tools for the right job, assessing the people's ability and auditing the principles. So these are some of the electrical safety program principles which will be reflected when the organization will be developing their electrical safety program policies. On the other hand, the part F talks about the electrical safety program controls. So the control will be applied not to the job, but to the electrical safety program itself. For it could be based on some KPIs in order to in order to check whether our electrical whether our electrical safety program is effective or is effective and efficient or not. For example, we have developed an electrical safety program, but nothing have changed within an organization. So how we will going to identify whether our electrical safety program is effective and efficient? So that can be tested by following some matrices. Before development and implementation of the electrical safety program, for example, there were 100 jobs were being performed. All were being performed without the required approval and being performed without taking into the consideration whether we should perform those tasks after establishing an electrically safe work condition, or should be performed live. So, but after implementing the electrical safety program in the organization, those energized tasks or the work have reduced by, for example, 70-75%, and those remaining 20-25% task is still is justified and authorized. So for those remaining tasks, we are seeing that the proper procedure for justification and authorization is being followed. So we can apply different type of the controls in order to measure whether our electrical safety program is effective or and efficient or not. Other type of the example could be related to decrease in the number of incidents, for example, related to near misses. People are not using the right personal protective equipment for the job. The peoples are not using the right tools for the job, etc. So electrical safety program controls our company's electrical safety matrices for determining if the safety program is effective and efficient. Matrices are measurable points used to determine the performance. They can also be used to determine if improvement to safety program are required, and if so, what needs to be changed. Some program controls can be found in the electrical safety program outline given in E.2 informative annexure E. The company's electrical safety program must be documented. It must include the policies, procedure, process controls necessary for employees to work safely. So what are some of the controls they have mentioned here in the annexure? The employer develops programs and procedure, including trainings, and the employees apply them. Employees are to be trained to be qualified for working in environment which are influenced by the presence of electrical energy. The procedures are to be used to identify the electrical hazard and to develop job safety plans to eliminate those hazards or to control the associated risk for those hazards that cannot be eliminated. So some of the controls they are talking here. Every electrical conductor or circuit part is considered energized until proved otherwise. De-energizing an electric conductor or circuit part and making it safe to work on it itself a potentially hazardous task. So we need to take into the consideration that establishing an electrically safe work condition itself a potential hazardous task. Tasks to be performed within the limited approach boundary or R-flash boundary of exposed energized electric conductor and circuit parts are to be identified and categorized. Precautions appropriate to working environment are to be determined and taken. A logical approach to be used to determine an associated risk of each task. So this control, it's related to all the activities which are being performed within an organization. So it will be generic for all the type of the activities. So the main point of applying the electrical safety program controls or the controls, or to mention the controls, is related to the procedure which are being used within the organization and how to ensure that people are following those principles and the procedures within the organization. The last part is related to G, which is electrical safety program procedure. So the procedure is more focused for individual tasks. So the procedure are basically task-based. So an electrical safety program shall identify the procedure to be utilized before work is started by employees exposed to an electrical hazard. So what's the difference between the control and the procedure? Basically, what are mentioned in our electrical safety program controls, those will be applicable to individual procedures. And you can think of these principles, controls, and procedure as a three-layer thing. The principles is basically setting the tone for the complete organization. It's showing the direction, it's showing the priorities of organization. On the other hand, the control is a middle layer, which taking into the consideration that like how we are performing, what was expected from us, and whether our electrical safety program is delivering what is required. And the procedure is related to individual tasks. So in order to perform any task, procedure must be followed. So some example of the procedure: what is the purpose of the task, qualification and the number of employees need to be involved, identification of the hazards, the limits of approach, shock risk assessment, and R-flash risk assessment. The PPs need to be aware, whether what type of the equipments we will be using to perform those particular tasks. So those are related to the procedures. So three things: electrical safety program principles, controls, and procedures. Procedure sits at the bottom, principles at the top, and control is in the middle, which basically controls all the type of the activities which are being performed in an organization, and it basically provide assurance that the principles on which the electrical safety program is based will be met. Yes, any question or any clarification required on these three electrical safety program? Yes, please. I'm trying to adjust my laptops. All good. Okay, let's do this one. So there are some statements written here. Okay, so based on the discussion and based on the examples given in annexure, try to put those things here. For example, whether this will going to fall under the principles, controls, or procedure, or this one is related to procedure, controls, or what? Yes, this question is clear. Yeah, please do it. Yes, let's start with the first one. We will always use the right tools for the right job. This statement sounds like principles, controls, or procedure.
Principles.
Yeah, so it shows some commitment. So principles will always be showing some commitment at the top level. We will never perform a task on energized equipment if it's possible to establish an electrically safe work environment. Yeah, second one, we will never perform a task on energized equipment if it is possible to establish an electrically safe work environment. It's again,
Control.
it's as per the article, as per the annexure, it falls under the principles. Again, it shows a bit of commitment at the top, and it is like a commitment that we will always establish an electrically safe work condition whenever it is possible, something like this. The third one is job safety plans will be developed to eliminate or control hazard. So it sounds like principles, but it is related to job safety plannings. So the planning will sit under the control, that we will be developing the job safety plans to control our hazards. Next one is the category 2 PP must be want to perform this task and you must use X and Y. So this task is related to particular task we talk about. So this will going to fall under the procedure. qualified persons are required to perform this task. Reference the single line diagram. Again, this is related to particular task. So if it is related to particular task, again, this will fall under the procedure. All employees must be trained to be qualified for working in an environment influenced by the electrical energy. That falls under the control. That how we will going to control our electrical safety program. So we will always use the right tool for the right job. We will never perform tasks. Right. Then all employees must be trained to be qualified in working in environment influenced by the electrical energy. So these are the controls, and last two are the procedures. Any questions on this one? Okay, moving to next one. What are the leading and lagging matrices available to gauge the effectiveness of the safety program of your own organization? So if we talk about the lagging matrix, so lagging matrix always provide the reactive view of safety program. So it can be measured in terms of lost time injuries, the cost spent on the worker compensation, etc. What are the leading matrices? Leading matrices are used to identify and correct contributing factors before the incidents happen. So it could be related to number of hazards identified, the reduction in energized work permit authorized, the amount of work procedure altered for de-energized work rather than the energized task. So those are the leading matrices you can use to gauge the effectiveness of your electrical safety program for your own organization. A company's primary safety and business objective will guide the development of the electrical safety program. So this is something related to principles we talk about. So the answer is true, that the company primary safety and business object will eventually guide the development of their own electrical safety program. An employee may not interact with electrical equipment safely if the employer focus keeping the production line running or getting the power back on as quickly as possible. Unless the company core safety principles and expectations of performing energized work safely are upheld, the employee will justify taking shortcuts and engaging in substandard work practices to meet those goals. Next one, risk assessment procedure. Elements of risk assessment procedure that is covered in Article 110.5H. So the risk assessment procedure is same. First, we have to identify the hazard. We have to assess the risk, and then we have to implement the control according to the hierarchy of risk control. So here, if we look into the annexure F, it talks about in annexure Q, it talks about human error as an important risk. So all the risk assessment procedures shall address the potential for human error and its negative consequence on people, process, the environment, and the equipment. So if you have developed an electrical safety program, you have provided the required training, and you have upgraded the skills of your employees, still there is a chance of incidents are there. So why those incidents happen? Those incidents happens mostly due to human error. So maybe due to those human error, the incidents happen. So we always have to take into the consideration the human factor when we are planning any job. So those human factors, human performance, and the workplace electrical safety, you can find those information in your informative annexure Q there. Typically, equipment typically does not cause injury without some error by you or by your employer. So it's correct. If you are not maintaining an electrical equipment correctly over the period of time, then there is definitely a chances of electrical incidents there. So equipment has not caused something, but you have not take care of your of that equipment. That's why it is causing some problem. So either you are responsible or your employer have not provided you the uh, required budget, required skills to maintain those assets. So improper maintenance, failure to don PP, and the slip of the hand are all examples of the human error that can defeat even the best conceived safety program. So if you have developed a best electrical safety program, but you have missed on these points, so the chances are there that due to human error, an incident can happen. So these are the hierarchy of risk control, starting with the elimination, substitution, engineering control, awareness, administrative control, and the personal protective equipment. So elimination is here. It's related to establishing an electrically safe work condition. We have already talked that it won't be talking about that eliminating the hazard by some design perspective. In substitution, we take into the consideration that maybe if we are changing the voltage level from 120 volts to 24 volt AC or DC, that will going to fall under the substitution. Um, for example, if at any particular location the incident energy was 40 cals per centimeter square, but we studied the whole network and system, and then we come up with the solution that if we change the device trip time settings or other thing, the uh, the incident energy can reduce from 40 cals per centimeter square to 8 cals per centimeter square, for example. So that will also going to fall under the substitution. Either we are changing the voltage level, we are reducing the voltage level to minimize the shock protection probability, or we are reducing the incident energy so that the risk associated with the arc flash hazard is also minimized. So those will going to fall under the substitution thing. In engineering control, we are putting some barrier, or we are creating some gap between the source of the hazard and the employee who is performing the task. So engineering control could be using some long handle voltage tester that will going to fall under the engineering control, or we are using some arc blast windows, or we are using some some other openings or windows in order to verify whether the contacts have open within the circuit breakers, rather than opening the panel itself and then viewing whether the contacts have completely open or not. That will also going to fall under the engineering control. Next one is related to the awareness. So awareness is covering like sign uh, and information labelings. Those will going to fall under the awareness. Administrative control will talk about all the process procedures, the safety planning, energize electric work permit, and etc. The final is related to the personal protective equipment, PPs. So here the PPs which are covered related to the shock and arc flash PPs. So there are two type of the PPs covered in the standard. So this is the hierarchy of risk control which is covered in the NFPA 70. Is any questions or any clarification required on this one? Okay. So if you look into the hierarchy of risk control, so the first three, elimination, substitution, and engineering control, are the most effective method to reduce the risk because they are usually applied at the source of possible injury and are less likely to be affected by the human error. On the other hand, the next three, the awareness, administrative control, and PP, these are the least effective method to reduce the risk because they are applied at the source and are more likely to be affected by the human error. So informative annexure F talks about this risk assessment in detail. So just take out some time to go through the informative annexure F as well. Moving to one case study, then it will be followed by the questions on the hierarchy of risk control. Just go through this this detail, and then we will have some Q&A. Have you gone through this one? Okay, let's go to the question. Can you mitigate the risk posted by the act of verifying the absence of voltage by using the elimination method? Yep, the answer is no, because he cannot do elimination here because that is a thing which he's performing. So he cannot apply the elimination method. Next one, if we look into the description, until Joe has verified the absence of voltage, the hazard cannot be ruled out. The elimination of the hazard isn't a viable option. Even if Joe removed power from the entire building, he would still need to verify the absence of voltage and would therefore need to assume the hazard still exists until he has verified it is gone. Next one, can Joe use the substitution method to control the risk he will be exposed to during the process of verifying the absence of voltage to place the MCC in an electrically safe work condition? Yes, what's your opinion? Can he use the substitution method? No, he cannot apply the substitution method at this stage because he have to verify the absence of voltage. So he does not have that time to change or to bring some changes in the design. So does Joe need to use personal protective equipment to verify for the absence of voltage in the MCC? Yeah, the answer will be yes, because he will be using the personal protective equipment and the right tool for the verification for the absence of voltage. Okay, so this type of the scenario you can counter in exam, where they will be giving you a situation or scenario, and then you have to opt for the right answer. Next one, which of the following risk control methods would apply to changing control circuitry voltage from 120 volts to 24 volts in a motor control center? Yeah, this is B. It's the substitution is the right option. An arc resistance switchgear design and arc suppression system are an example of dash category of risk control. It does not fall under the engineering. It is again with the substitution, because we are substituting a metal clad switchgear with an arc resistance switchgear. So it will be like I am substituting one type of the uh, hazard with another type of the hazard. If I'm doing some changes within my existing switchgear, that will going to fall under the engineering control. For example, uh, if I'm putting some arc glass window, or I'm putting some shield there, or I have created a distance between the operator and the equipment, that will going to fall under the engineering control. So arc resistance switchgear design and arc suppression system are examples of substitution category of risk control. So we are basically substituting uh, this particular hazard. Yes, any question or any clarification required? All good. So normally employer think that we have once we have fulfilled, we have performed this risk assessment, and we have put this labels, we have fulfilled the requirements, but it is not like this. The arc flash risk assessment and chalk risk assessment and coming up with this labels are like you are not fulfilling the complete obligation. It's a part of the obligation which you have fulfilled. Okay, so there is the hierarchy of risk control you have to fulfill if anyone wants to demonstrate that they are compliant with the 70E requirement. So this labeling falls under only the administrative control, or where you are performing those risk assessment, and you are basically putting those things as a part of the signage, or as a part of the awareness there. The risk assessment procedure could include Yeah, the risk assessment is a procedure, could include so the risk assessment procedure could include identifying where a second person could be required. Yes, this is right. The training requirement, this could be right, and equipment to be used by the qualified person. So all of them, ABC, are the right answer. Then the I part is related to the job safety planning and briefing. Before the start of each job that involves exposure to electrical hazard, the employee in charge shall complete a job safety plan and conduct a job briefing with the employees involved. So if the task is being carried out for the first time, the work procedure must be developed before the work begins. If the planning reveals shortcomings in the safe work program or procedure, they should be addressed before the task is performed. It should be verified that the necessary equipment will be available to perform those particular tasks. What are the main important points which need to be covered when we are doing some job safety planning? The job safety plan shall be in accordance with the following. It should be completed by the qualified person. It should be always documented. Include the minimum following information: a description of the job and the individual task, the complete job, and within that particular job, what are the tasks being performed, identification of the electrical hazard associated with each task, the shock risk assessment in accordance with Article 130.4, and arc flash risk assessment in accordance with Article 130.5. Work procedure involve special precautions and energy source controls. So these are some of the important parts of the job safety planning. On the other hand, it also requires for the job briefing. So job safety planning is being done as a part of the planning process. The job briefing is being communicated to the people who are involved in carrying out that particular task. So a job briefing shall cover the job safety plan and the information on the energized work permit if it is required. So this job briefing will going to contain the job safety planning and the energized electric work permit information if that permit is completed. So most of the thing in the job safety plan and the energized electric work permit are common. Okay, but 70E requires that if the task requires an energized electric work permit, then that energized electric work permit should be completed. You can find that sample energized electric work permit example I have shared with you as a part of the student manual. You can find job safety planning checklist here. Okay, that can be used to develop your own job safety planning checklist, which is in compliance with the 70E requirement. And there are other and job briefing checklist is also there, which is an editable form. This can also be used and it can serve both the purpose, job safety planning and briefing as well. So this type of the checklist you can use for job safety planning and briefing as well. This editable version is with you people. Then there is third point is related to change in scope. Additional job safety planning and the job briefing shall be held if changes occur during the course of the work that might affect the employee safety. So for example, if initial job was related to inspection, so job safety planning covered the inspection part, and the job briefing also covered the scope of work related to inspection. But during inspection, you found that there is some loose connections are there which need to be fixed or tight. So other job safety planning, additional job safety planning and job briefing are required to perform those tasks. Okay, so there is a change when there is a change in scope of work. The previous job safety plan and job briefing will not going to work, and a new planning and briefing is mandatory. This job safety planning and briefing checklist you can find in Annexure I as well of the standard, and I have shared as a part of the student material. So change in scope, if we look into the definition in change in scope in exam, they will going to test your knowledge about change in scope through different angles. For example, the change in scope includes if you are working with natural light, and now you have to work within floodlights or some artificial light, that will also going to constitute the change in scope, because there could be different perception for the task, and maybe due to low visibility or any other reason, there is a chances of incidents. The chances of incidents are there. For example, you are working there, but now you have to you have to hold some torch in order to perform that particular task. So holding a torch on your right hand and to perform the task, it will also going to fall under the scope change. Other type of the scope change involves some task in which shifting from inspection to maintenance task or repair or replace task. So those are well understood. But changing the condition, environmental conditions or any other factor which can affect the safety of the employees and which requires job safety planning and briefing, those will going to fall under the scope change. Okay, any question on this one? Okay. Next one is related to J, incident investigation. The electrical safety program shall include elements to investigate those electrical incident. So this is also one of the important component of the electrical safety program. So when you will be developing your electrical safety program, it should have elements to investigate the electrical incident. Electrical incidents include events or occurrence that results in or could have resulted in fatality, injury, or damage to health. Incidents do not result in fatality, injury, or damage to health are commonly referred to as close call or near misses. Employers and employee must accept their responsibility and work together to find the causes of incidents and those near misses. So this is as per the requirement article 110.5J. K says about the electrical safety program work condition policy, and an electrical safety program shall include an electrical safe working condition policy that complies with the article 110.3. So in article 110.3, we talk about that when you have to establish an electrically safe work condition. So it says that whenever an employee is working at voltage level equal to or greater than 50 volt, we have to establish an electrically safe work condition for those employees who will be performing job within the limited approach boundary. Or when the employee interacts with equipment where conductor or circuit parts are not exposed, but there is an increased likelihood of exposure to an arc flash hazard when they are operating those things, that will then again we have to establish an electrically safe work condition. So part K talks about that you have to put your policy, electrical safe work condition policy as a part of your electrical safety program. Then part L talks about the logout and tagout program. So a logout and tagout program could be part of your electrical safety program, or you can refer to the logout and tagout program in your electrical safety program, that the logout and tagout program exists. So so the electrical safety program shall include the information required by one of the following: a logout and tagout program in accordance with article 120.1a, reference to the employer's logout and tagout program established in accordance with 120.1A 1A. So those things, those could be referred. Either we are incorporating complete logout and tagout program in our electrical safety program, or in our electrical safety program, we can refer that we have a separate logout and tagout program established. Then M talks about the auditing requirement of electrical safety program. So audit shall be performed at intervals not exceed 3 years. So complete electrical safety program, which is basically based on the current edition of the NFPA 70, because we know that every 3 years the edition of the NFPA 70 is being updated. So you are developing your electrical safety program based on 2021, then it need to be reviewed and revised and updated based on 2024 edition. So that's why an audit shall be performed at intervals not to exceed 3 years in order to check whether it is complying with the standard or not. Okay, so that's why just highlight this thing in your book when you will be reading, because they will going to ask this question, that what should be the auditing frequency of your electrical safety program. So you should know that it's 3 years. Fieldwork audit, the fieldwork audit should be audited every year. This is the requirement that all your field auditing will be performed every year. So 1 year is for your fieldwork audit, 3 years for your electrical safety program. Similarly, 1 year is for your logout and tagout program. So every year you should perform the auditing of your electrical safety program. Okay, it should be done every year. Then it requires documentation, that all your audits should be documented. So just keep this in mind, that all the auditing of your electrical safety program will be every 3 years, and the fieldwork audit and the logout and tagout program audit will be every year, every 1 year. Yes, any questions on this one? Okay, let's start with this one question. Yeah, B is the right option, and C and D are also right. But if only one option we have to select, then it should contain a risk assessment procedure, have a specific procedure for the task, emphasize on de-energizing. These all three are basically the part of the electrical safety program. Okay, but if you have to select one option in exam, then you will go with option number B. Otherwise, if more than one options are there, so all are the part of your electrical safety program. So we have seen the elements of electrical safety program, what it contains. So there are 13 elements which need to be in your electrical safety program in order to meet the minimum compliance requirements of NFPA 17. Any questions or any clarification required up till now on this one? Okay, let's move to one case study. Just read this case study and try to identify what actually went wrong and which basically constituted this incident. Right. So from the scenario, we can see that it was a routine task, and Nathan was performing that particular task, but he was interrupted by Dave. Change of scope. Okay, so he was basically interrupted by Dave, and Dave uh, was a bit upset that why this have not been monitored, or this task have not been completed up till now. So in this particular example, we can see that the Nathan was not able to barricade that particular area. For this particular reason, Dave, who is considered as an unqualified employee, have entered that particular area, and he distracted him, and during that distraction time, due to that distraction, Nathan was not being able to complete the steps or the procedure required for establishing an electrically safe work condition. Without verifying, without verifying whether all the blades have open, or without verifying for the absence of voltage, he basically performed that particular task, and which basically caused that incident to happen. So if we look into the analysis, Nathan injury could have been preventive if an electrically safe work condition had been established. If barricades had been set up, the general contractor, unqualified person, was kept out of that particular area. Additionally, there was no identification whether Nathan had won appropriate PP and ARC rated PP for establishing the electrically safe work condition. During the investigation, it was determined that he was wearing some conductive objective, which basically additionally exaggerated the injuries. Wearing of jewelry and other conductive articles is prohibited where there is a potential for electric contact with exposed energized electric conductors or circuit part. So these type of the things will be tested in exam through different angle, that how this incident could have been prevented, or what action would you have been taken by you in this particular scenario, etc. Right. Moving to Article 110.6, it talks about the training requirements. So in Article 110.6, you will going to see that there are further 3 electrical safety training, logout and tagout procedural training, and the emergency response training. 110.6A is further divided into trainings requirement for qualified person, unqualified person, some additional training requirement, type of training requirement, and electrical safety training and documentations. So qualified training, for the training for the qualified person will be based on the amount of hazard involved in the task, and what basically type of the training you have to provide to the person in order to make them qualified, so that they can perform their task easily. So the training requirement contained in Article 110.6 shall apply to employees exposed to electrical hazard when the risk associated with the hazard is not reduced to a safe level by the applicable electrical installation and installation requirement. So qualified employees need to be trained for precautionary techniques, policies, and procedure within the organization, the personal protective equipment requirement, insulated tools. Okay, so what type of the tools they will be using, etc. So a person can be considered qualified for certain equipment and methods, yet unqualified for others. In some cases, a person undergoing the on-job training may be considered qualified. The task done less than once a year requires retraining. Employer must determine each employee is in compliance through regular supervision and inspection. So if, for example, if you have a task which has not been performed frequently, it has been performed once per every year, like annual preventive maintenance tasks. So for those tasks, a retraining or refresher is required. So just keep this point in your mind, that those tasks which you will going to perform once every year, retraining or refresher is required. Employer must determine through that each employee is in compliance through regular supervision and inspection. So there is no requirement of carrying out some interview or written test, written exam in order to check whether your employee is in compliance or not. So the employer must determine that each employee is in compliance through regular supervision or inspections. Then we have seen a detail about electrical. We have seen detail about the qualified person. What are the requirements for a person to become a qualified person? So you can always refer to that chart if you are there to develop some training programs for your qualified persons. Similarly, for unqualified person, the training requirements are low. The training for unqualified persons are related to such that they do not jeopardize themselves. They don't put themselves in some dangerous position. They know about the sign. They know about the electrical hazard. They know their limitation, that they are not allowed to cross the barricades. They are not allowed to cross the limited approach boundary and R-flash boundary. They are not allowed to perform task near energized electric equipment without they will not going to start to work on an electrically safe work condition and on the equipment which have already put into an electrically safe work condition till they have got a proper clearance. So the training requirement for unqualified person will be related to these certain points. So they won't be trained, or they don't need to be trained to perform the task, but to identify the hazards there. Then in 110.6A3 talks about some additional training and retraining requirements. So additional training and retraining in safety related work practices and applicable changes in this standard shall be performed at intervals not exceed 3 years. So as per 70, a qualified person automatically become an unqualified person if he does not get refresher or retraining within 3 years time period. So in order for a person to retain its qualified person status, he need to have the trainings within that the 3 years bracket. Additional training and retraining is also required if there is some changes in the procedures, policies, if there is some new equipments have been become part of your asset portfolio. There is some changes in the procedures are there, or regular supervision or annual inspection indicated that the person is not complying with the safety related work practices. The tasks are done less often. For example, the task is done only once per year. Employees' duty have changed from morning shift to night shift, from night shift to evening shift, or from operation to maintenance department, maintenance from preventive maintenance to predictive maintenance, or preventive maintenance to corrective maintenance, or from preventive maintenance to inspection. So if those duties changes, are training or retraining is required in that particular case. Is any questions or any clarification required up till now?
Excuse me. I have a question regarding the if something is I have a like a background for the OHS. So if there is even a replacement of a tool of a similar kind, would that be considered unqualification for the person too?
If the tool does not require any additional skills, then the training is not required. But for example, if before if you was using some analog type of the tool, now it has changed into digital, definitely a retraining is required in order to make person a qualified person. Previously, the person who used to perform switching operation on an oil-based circuit breakers. Now there is a new type of the air circuit breaker is there, or vacuum circuit breaker is there. The voltage level is same, company is same, but the technology have changed, the equipment have changed. So a training is required. Okay. Next one, what are the type of the trainings is allowed? That the training required by Article 110.6A shall be classroom, on-job training, or the combination of the two. So for this particular case, it says that if you are making some person qualified person, the online training is not acceptable. Okay, it should be a classroom training or it should be an on-job training. The extent, the type and extent of the training provided shall be determined by the risk to the employees. The classroom training can include interactive electronic and interactive web-based training components. Okay, but the type of the training which is currently acceptable for qualified employees is the classroom training, and the on-job training is only. No online trainings or other things is acceptable through to make them become a qualified person. Next, it talks about the documentation requirements. So documents need to be maintained for the duration of the employment, and when the employee demonstrate the proficiency in the work practices, it should take into the consideration the content of the training, each employee's name, dates of the training. So you can develop this type of the format in order to store or record the training requirements, or the training with which an employee have taken. Okay. Who is most relevant person for identifying whether skills of a qualified person are current or not, are not current or not sharp enough to safely perform the given task? Yeah, qualified employee himself is the right option. Yep. Next one. All of the following would require an employer to provide an employee with additional training except. So D is the right answer. It has been 6 months since the initial training because there is no requirement of 6 months. There is a requirement uh, of 3 years there. Or if the type of the task is not frequent, then 1 year. So D is the right answer except D. Right. Then 110.6b talks about the logout and tagout training procedures. So it also covered the initial training, retraining requirement, and a logout tagout training documentation requirement. So initial training talks that employees involved in the logout and tagout procedure required by 120.2b shall be trained in the following: the logout and tagout procedure, their responsibility in the execution of the procedure. So here it says employees. So employees could be qualified as well as unqualified employees. So here in the logout and tagout, it needs to take into the consideration all the employees who are directly or indirectly have some part to play in the execution of the logout and tagout procedure. So the employees who are involved in the logout and tagout procedure shall be trained in the logout and tagout procedure itself, their responsibility in the execution of the procedure. The retraining requirement: when the procedure are revised at intervals not exceed 3 years. When supervision or annual inspection indicate that the employee is not complying with the logout and tagout procedure, then the retraining is required. Logout and tagout training documentation requirement. It need to be documented when the employees demonstrate proficiency in the work practices involved, and documentation should contain those content of the training, employee's name, and the dates of the training. Then 110.6c talks about the emergency response training. It covers the contact release training, first aid, emergency response trainings, training verification, and the documentations requirement. So contact release training should be provided to the qualified person himself who is performing the task, as well as those employees who will be responsible for carrying out this contact release task. So the employees exposed to shock hazard and those responsible for the safe release of victims from contact with energized electric conductors or circuit parts shall be trained in the methods of safe release. Refresher training shall occur annually. So you have to keep these things highlighted or in your mind from the exam point of view. The contact release training need to be occurred annually. Then there is a requirement for the first aid and emergency response training. It need to be occurred annually. So the answer is false. The first aid and emergency response training need shall occur at a frequency that satisfy the requirement of the certifying body. For example, if the certifying body have given you have certified people for first aid and emergency response for 3 years. So that training is valid for 3 years. You don't have to perform, or you don't have to uh, do the retraining before 3 years. If that certification is for 5 years, then you are valid first aider for next 5 years. So contact release need to be performed every year, but first aid training uh, will occur at a frequency that satisfy the requirements of the certifying body. Okay. Then training verification. Employers shall verify at least annually that employee required training required by 110.6C is current. So all the contact release training and the first aid trainings are have not expired and are current. That is the responsibility of an employer uh, to to verify that all the trainings are current. Then about documentation, the employer shall document that the training required by 110.6 has actually occurred. So there should be a document proof as well. Next one, a maintenance technician that has been trained to operate low voltage power circuit is also qualified to remove low voltage power circuit breaker while energized and install a replacement. Yeah, so the answer is no, is false. He cannot. It's false. He's not qualified for another task. Then 110.7 talks about the host and contractor employee responsibility. So who is host and who is contractor? Any person who is responsible for the facility and who is in charge of the facility is host, and the contractor employers or the contract employers are those who are visiting that particular facility in order to perform certain tasks. So in this manner, the host and contractor relationship are not always internal and external. Like contractors are always external parties who are visiting the facility to perform the task, but it could be like contractor could, for example, uh, we we have 3 plants in our company, plant A, B, and C, and the plant A, B, C have different maintenance team. In one case, in one scenario, the plant A have shortage of maintenance staff and they need to bring people from plant C. So in this particular scenario, the plant A will be an host employer, and plant C maintenance people will be contract employees. So because they might be working at a different plant where the hazards and the risk associated with those hazards are different as compared to plant A. So they need to be they need to have a briefing from the host employer. So the host employer shall inform the contractor employers of the following known hazard that are covered by this standard that are related to the contract employer's work and that might not be recognized by the contractor employer or its employees. Information about employer's installation that the contract employers need to make assessment. The host employer shall report observed contract employer related violation of this standard to the contract employer. So these are some of the responsibility of the host employer, that there should be a documented meeting should be there in which the host employer is informing the contractor employer about the complete scope of work, the hazard involved in that particular work, in that particular work, in that particular environment, in the facility. Okay, so it should be documented. On the other hand, there is a contract employer responsibility that the contract employer will going to ensure that the employees who are under the control of the contract employer will going to follow the instructions given by the host employer. Okay. So if the host employer have their electrical safety program established and the policies and the procedure which they have mentioned, there the contractor employers and employees of the contractor are bound to follow those things. Yeah, host could be a client. This is basically the client. The contractor employer shall ensure that each of his or her employees is instructed in the hazards communicated to the contractor employer by the host employer. This instruction shall be in addition to the basic training required by this standard. The contract employer shall ensure that each of his or her employee follow the work practices required by this standard and safety related work rules required by the host employer. The contractor employer shall advise the host employer of the following: any unique hazard presented by the contractor employee's work. Now in the third part, it says that the contractor employer shall advise the host employer. So it's vice versa. So if the contractor employer is carrying out some any task which can present some unique hazard, contractor employer need to communicate this to the host employer. Or during the execution of the task, the contractor employer identify some hazard which was not initially identified by the host employer. It's a responsibility of the contractor employer to communicate those as well. For example, the drawings which the host employer shared with the contractor employer had marking of one cable, but during the excavation he determined that there are more than one cables are present in that particular trench. So it's a responsibility of the contractor employer to communicate this to the host employer that there are more than one cables are there. The measure the contractor took to correct any violation reported by the host employer under 110.7A2 and to prevent such violation from reoccurring in the future. So what the lesson learned and what they have taken measures in order to respond to the contractor employer's recommendation, those need to be communicated by the contractor employer as well. Then 110.7C talks about that it should be documented. A proper documented meeting need to be carried out between the host employer and the contractor employer, in which all these points will be noted down and will be exchanged with each other. Then 110.8 talks about instruments, test instruments and equipment. So only qualified employees are allowed to perform tasks such as testing, troubleshooting, voltage measuring, and etc. No unqualified employees are allowed to perform these particular tasks. So if the voltage level is greater than 50 volts or if the voltage level is less than 50 volts, it's an only qualified person task and only qualified person is allowed to perform this particular task. So if the question is who is allowed to perform tasks such as testing, troubleshooting, and voltage measuring on electrical equipment operating at voltage equal to or greater than 50 volts, so this is related to unqualified, is only related to qualified persons only. What about circuits operating under 50 volts? Again, this is qualified person only because the situation can change anytime. If the situation changes, then it need to be the qualified person will be able to identify, will be able to pick that the situation have changed, and he will be able to perform or he will be able to assess the risk and can perform the job safety planning again. Okay. So test instruments and their accessories shall be as follows. They should be rated for circuits and equipment where they will be utilized. They should be approved for the purpose, and they should be used in accordance with the instructions provided by the manufacturer. So the points on the electrical distribution system where this specific voltmeter will be used is often often indicated by the category designation. This information is not present in your standard, but this is present in the handbook, that there is a category and the voltage classification, voltage rating and category classification is there. So this category is not equivalent to that category of category 1, 2, 3, 4 related to R-rated clothing. This category is related to the test instrument. So this category 1, 2, 3 is basically show what the over voltage or the impulse level are expected at any point in your wiring system. For example, if you are using a test instruments just at the connection point between the utility and your facility, so that will fall under the category 4 location. 30 feet into your own distribution network, the electrical panels which you have installed may be at the same voltage level, but the category 3 will be applicable. That means now the distance from the source is high. That will going to result in less chances of impulses are there. Okay, so category 3 is applicable here. And further 30 feet from category 3 location, the location will be category 2, where a single phase receptacle levels are there. And category 1 is for electronic equipment. So these are the different type of the category which is being mentioned in the handbook related to the distance. So at category 4, you can have 1000 volts. At category 3 location, you can have 1000 volts. So you will be selecting your test instrument based on 1000 volts minimum, but we'll be looking at category 3 and 4. So 1000 volt category 3 test instruments cannot be used at this particular location, but 1000 volt category 4 test instrument can be used here. So higher category test instrument can be used at any location, okay, provided that it's meeting the voltage requirement. On the other hand, lower category voltage test instrument should not be used at other location, because the chances of the impulse are there, and it can cause shorting or damage of those test instruments. So category 4 applies to utility connection and outside. Category 3 is applied to inside distribution such as feeders and branch circuits. Category 2 applies to receptacle level, which is at least 30 feet from category 3 and 60 feet from category 4 location. And category 1 is for those electronics equipment. Any questions on this one? Categories? Okay, moving to some knowledge check. Voltage measuring, including verifying the absence of voltage, must only be performed C is the right answer. By qualified in person is the right option. Then in Article 250, there is a requirement for maintenance of those test instruments. That additional requirement for test instruments are covered in Article 250. 250 requires that all test instruments to be properly maintained. Maintenance program must ensure their functional integrity as well. what is the consequence of applying inappropriate instruments? So if you are applying inappropriate instruments, which is designed for 600 volt into 11 kV side or the high voltage side, it will going to cause it can cause electrocution and an R flash incident because of shorting of those test instruments. So there is a 3-step process related to operational verification. So operational verification contains that if you need to prove that any electrical equipment or system has been put into an electrically safe work condition, so 3-step verification is required as per 70s. First step is that you will going to test your test instruments on the known voltage source. It will going to show you a voltage, or it will going to show you a reading. Then you will apply that particular test instrument on bus bar or the electrical system which you want to show that it has been put into an electric saver condition. So you will going to check face to face and face to ground. So on all those testing, it should result in 0. Then again you will going to test this test instrument with the known voltage source. So it should again give you the voltage reading. So this is the operational verification of the test instrument itself, that the test instrument is working correctly, and the test instrument which you have used for the verification for the absence of voltage, it has given you the right information. So actually that circuit that circuit have been put into an electrically safe work condition. Okay. 110.9 talks about portable cord plug connected electrical equipments. So those are some generic requirement that you should not plug in the cord connections with your wet hands. You should not pull your portable equipment by wires. Always inspect those portable equipment before using, and use the grounds GFCI or equipment grounding conductor when you are using those portable electrical equipment. So Article 110.9 talks about those portable cord and plug connected electrical equipment. Tasks done less than once a year require retraining. We have seen, yes, the tasks which are done less than once per year, those are the part of the retraining requirement. Which category applies to inside distribution, such as feeders and branch circuits? What's your opinion on this one? Yeah, the right answer is category 3 is the right answer. The employer must determine that each employee is in compliance through. Only one answer is correct. Yeah, the right answer is C, either regular supervision on or annual inspections. So C is the right answer. An equipment grounding conductor should be an integral part of the safety system built into the equipment by a manufacturer that provides significant protection from shock of electrocution. Yeah, it's true. The answer is true. It should be the part of the equipment grounding conductors are not required on tools that are double insulated. This is also true. The equipment grounding conductor that are those are not mandatory requirement if the tools are double insulated. Okay. Overcurrent protection of circuits and conductors can be modified on a temporary basis beyond what is permitted by the applicable portions of electrical codes and standard dealing with the overcurrent protection. This is as per Article 110.11. If the answer is false, it cannot be changed so that it will going to bypass the standard limitation. As per NFPA 70, equipment shall be used in accordance with yeah, the right answer is manufacturer instruction is the right answer, C. Right. So up till now we have completed Article 105 and Article 110. We have already we have completed. So that also ends the module number 2. Now you can start to develop your electrical safety program development, and because now you know that what are the elements involved in the development of the electrical safety program. You can also start to develop your own electrical safety audit tool as per 70E requirement. All the shell requirements which you have read up till now, those are basically the mandatory requirement which need to be put in your electrical safety program, and those will be basically the audit point requirement, like when should be the training. If an auditor, you go to an organization, you will going to ask what is your training criteria for qualified person and unqualified person. When the retraining is being occur, what type of the training you are providing to your qualified and unqualified person, what is the process there for determining the retraining requirement, etc. So now you have covered those things, so that could be covered by you as well. So just start to copy the shell statement into your Excel sheet. That will going to help you to maintain an auditable version. Okay, that what needs to be audited. Then 3 is related to job briefing and job planning checklist. Review of an energized work policy and task for your organization, and review of the qualified person for the task. So by this we have completed module number 2, and we have completed article 100 till 110 of the standard. In the next module, in module number 3, we will be starting article 120. So now it's your responsibility to go through what we have covered up till now. Right. Yeah, we have completed till here. Okay. So we will start next module, module number 120 in our coming class. So just take out some time to read through page number 20. Okay. Any question, any clarification required? All good. Okay, what's for question, how much is percentage of scenario versus information test? I think scenarios are there. I've heard 5 to 10 questions will be there based on scenarios. Other will be others. 100 question is normally having options which you have to select. Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. See you on next session. Assalamu alaikum.